And on to the next panel. Close 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this follows the same principle. And we have everything organized just like before. I'll show you what it looked like before final art. That was the final art there. Not the final art, the draft art. All right. So, feet. How did it start? I think it started like this. Yeah, it started like this. He was pouring water in it. It just was not working out. See, you can thumbnail things and pencil them out, and then you realize, oh, it doesn't work. And so I did this, and then I had to come up with a pit, and I was having trouble with a pit, so I grabbed this. I don't know why that happened. I tell you, but so I found this picture of a pit, and I threw that in there to help me, get to build this up, and then so there you have it, and there's our whole. When you have trouble, you get reference. You have to use references, otherwise it just looks terrible. And after you practice with the references a lot, you become skilled at it, and then you don't have to use references for a lot of things. So I like to use the rule of thirds to check my composition. So I actually lay down a rule of thirds somewhere. This is an odd one, so I can't tell exactly where. I think he's on this third, his foot is here, so it's not so great, but it is what it is. And close-up of the face, yeah, I like close-ups. Again, rule of thirds here. I wanted to fit him top of the mouth, bottom of the lip here, but center it. So, it's not exactly a good placement for rule of thirds. Probably I could have, done something like this or like this with more of the eyes maybe. But I have a reason I want to show his curly hair, his black hair, his dark skin, because that's in contrast to where he is in the world, being in southern Sweden. Not a lot of people with that appearance there at that time. So this was a special case because I didn't do any background. I wanted it white. And that's because I didn't want any distractions. I wanted this to stand out, that he's pulling another book out of his robes. And let's take a look at what it looked like before. Great. So it started like that. That was my concept. I got this model because I was having trouble with the arms. Again, when you're having trouble, use a mannequin, a digital one or a real one. And then I built this off of the mannequin. And then, you have the character. And I like heavy inks. I do like that personally. It's a style, so I tend to throw a lot of that in there. I like contrast. I like the extremes, and this is a story in a place of extremes, actually. Sweden it's not very humid, so when the sun is out, it's hot. When the sun isn't there, it's cold, and there's great extremes, so I really show that in this. So let's turn off these layers here, and that's how it came up. And here is a 3D model. I ended up drawing him here and then flipping it Compositionally, it wasn't working, and but I did use that model squatting down just to help me again with the foreshortening. And there's a picture of a pit I found, and then from that I was able to sketch in a pit. You're not copying. You shouldn't be tracing what you're doing. You should only be getting it for ideas. You don't want to steal people's stuff unless you're buying rights to use it. And then there's our rule of thirds. Let's see if I followed the rules. Sometimes you follow it, sometimes you don't. Yeah, and pretty much he's laying right there on the thirds with the subject matter. And that's what I'm trying to get across. In page 2 of the artwork, again, I like close-ups, but you have somebody far and somebody close. This one had a lot of work. I really wanted to get it just right. I wanted to look like Sweden with the scenery and all that stuff. Draft, composition. Let's look at these layers. Turn this off here. Yeah. So the composition was going to be a slant. I wanted a nice slant like that. And I just laid him out along there like that. Rule of thirds, his eye is right there. If we threw a golden spiral, we could really see if it flows right. And the next one, got the Viking-like guys. Here's our rule of thirds again, laying right down on Ahmed there. Not so much the man he's talking to. But, and here's the ship. And you see here's my layers. All right. So here is I wanted to put these two panels in red because they're intense emotions. I'm still kind of, I don't know if in the final, because when you see this, the final will have been published, and I may or may not have let that exploding white from the face show up. That does kind of bother me. I'm not sure. But here I got his partner here, kind of in the monocolor area. Here he's got his rope. Angles are really important, coming up with cool perspectives, especially with boring conversations. When you got long conversations, mix it up. Get your camera moving around. And so I could put the camera on top, way up at the top of the mast of the ship, focusing down on them. And that one, let's see what we have for draft on that, what I kept. It took me a while to decide exactly what I was going to do. Yeah, I had to get rope sources because I was having trouble drawing rope. But let's see how we started. Yep, there's a ship. Composition, yep. All right. And there you go, he's on the third. And the angry Viking-like fella is here and pointing his finger, looking kind of nasty, intense color. I didn't want any other distractions. I want people to remember what he's saying and who he is. Let me turn that off. So draft was interesting because, again, I drew one thing and it just didn't look right. That was, this was not working. And then I came up with this, but even this didn't seem very dynamic. So I was like, let me work with the 3D model and see what happens. Aha! And so they kind of helped me with getting, moving this model around, having him point, turning his head a certain way. There you go. Yeah, it's just little things. I changed them a little bit in the sense I wanted them kind of hunched over, like I'm telling you. I didn't want him too. I wanted to show his big shoulders and his furry coat or vest, and his muscles. So, well, I hope you like this behind the scenes of the mini saga for Badin and the Secret of the Saami. Invite you to subscribe and stay in touch on Twitter and Facebook. Hashtag Badin's Secret. And this is a historical fiction graphic novel based on a real black Swede who was a member of the Swedish royal court in the 18th century. And these mini sagas are independent of the graphic novel. I'm actually simultaneously, while I do this, I'm working on the graphic novel. And I'll have behind the scenes movies on that once it's released. And we hope to have that released by the end of 2016. Thanks a lot.